Welcome, Isabella. Welcome, Kat, David, Eric. And just enter in the chat where it is that you're dialing in from, city and state, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And that way I'll be able to speak specifically to your real estate investment interests. So that's the reason for letting us know. Thanks, Lindsay. Iowa's got a lot of great opportunities, certainly at least that part of the U.S. I don't know if that's necessarily considered the Midwest, but absolutely some not too far away neighbors, Wisconsin, Michigan, have quite a lot of houses that you absolutely can buy for the price of a car. And that's what we're going to be diving into. So with that, we're going to go on ahead and get started. So my name is Pam Hill. I'm going to go on ahead and begin to share my screen here. So let me just get that going. All righty. And then you'll get to watch me maneuver it all in real time here. Okay, so move over to present. All righty. So what we are going to be doing this evening is an absolutely fabulous way to start the new year, which is getting some insight on two topics. One is the topic generally of real estate investment. And in particular, in my case, I do a lot of buy, fix it up, and rent it out. So in other words, hold on to it tight, and then rent it out. So that's one, is we're going to learn about that at kind of a high level. And then we're going to dive in more specifically to buying a house for the price of a car, which is my personal favorite way of buying real estate. So it's something that I am always super excited to share with folks and talk about. So what we're going to be doing is having today's conversation be something that is interactive. So by all means, make use of the chat, make use of your emojis. If something kind of strikes you as, yep, that's me. And in the chat in particular, in addition to city state, if you've got particular real estate investment goals, and especially if this is going to be your first time buying one, enter that as well. And that way I can always talk to you about how you get started when you're a brand new person. So again, I'm Pam Hill, and my company is called My Smart Cousin. And the website is mysmartcousin.com, and you can reach me by email at info@mysmartcousin.com. So as far as, okay, My Smart Cousin, tell me a little bit more about how it is that you are our smart cousin and what you've done. So like probably a lot of you all who are looking at real estate, I got involved while still working full-time, and I really fell into it. So first, the full-time piece. So I had been working at an energy company, actually two big electric utilities. One right here in the Philly area called Exelon. So they own several utilities across the Mid-Atlantic. And then another one in the South called Georgia Power, which is where they're headquartered. And so I had the opportunity to be in a lot of great roles, spent a lot of time in finance, but also sales, marketing, regulatory affairs. And I had two big roles as I kind of climbed up the ladder. So one was being the chief financial officer, the CFO of an electric utility that was considered small for them. So it was $1 billion, maybe more like $900 million asset. And then also had the opportunity to be the CEO of a different electric utility that was roughly the same size, with about 1,000 employees and about 100,000 customers. So I have a lot of experience, kind of real, I guess, executive experience, but more importantly, analytical experience, really taking a good hard look at what makes for a great deal. So that's the background. And then how is it that I came to real estate? I definitely didn't think to myself, hey, Pam, you ought to get in real estate. Not at all. My only brush with real estate before becoming a developer, really. So now I'm not just someone who buys and holds, but am also a real estate developer. How I got into this was I fell into this. So my husband, and at the time we were dating, he was looking at buying a house. He lived in an apartment, and he was ready to buy. And this was around the time of the Great Recession. So probably 10 years ago or so, maybe 9 years ago. And at that point in time, I think we all heads were spinning, not really knowing where things were going to go. So we looked at houses from cheapest to most expensive, because that's kind of my favorite way of looking at things in general. Why pay a lot when you can pay a little? And by doing that, we saw houses that were in the 20s, in the $20,000 neighborhood, 20,000, 25,000, 30, 35,000. And I was thunderstruck. I couldn't believe it. The words out of my mouth were, I can't believe that you can buy a house for the price of a car. And I continue not to believe that you can do it. You can do it. I do it. But it's just, it's really unreal. And so when I saw that, he, of course, bought his house, and he paid $27,500, I think it was, either 26 or 27,500. And I couldn't unsee it. So as I said, I was working in corporate America. I was looking at my retirement being the retirement of, in terms of retirement savings of just your typical, oh, let's do a 401k, let's do mutual funds and stocks. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan of having a diversified portfolio, and the stock market is a great place to be as a part of that. But it isn't the onlyest place to be. Again, once I saw real estate, I couldn't turn away. So that led me to get into the buy, hold, and rent game by buying for the price of a car. So I've bought 25 houses, and that equals 31 units, individual units, because the houses are a mix of single family, duplex, a triplex, a fourplex, and then most recently a sixplex. The sixplex was not for the price of a car, but I couldn't have gotten into it without already having the real estate that I had. And the cheapest price I've paid is $2,500 in southern New Jersey. And the most expensive price I've paid, not including that sixplex, was about 35,000. I think it was 35.5 is my most expensive. And that includes buying a duplex for less than 35, buying a 3-family for less than 35, buying a 4-family for less than 35. So that's what brings me to this area, and why I'm just so passionate about it, as you can tell. I also blog. So the blogging is a great way for people to connect and learn just, I would call it a bit of general information, but good information on a particular topic. Something that I am doing right now is something I call 30 for 30. So you pay $30 and you get a 30-minute one-on-one with me. And so the folks who've done that have found it really useful, because it's a great way to move from sort of being on the sidelines and saying, okay, I'm going to do it. I wish I knew how to do it, but I'm going to get into the real estate game, to someone who's done it a lot. I've been doing this, as I said, now for 8 or 9 years. Definitely don't plan on stopping anytime soon. And I love it, and I'm very good at it. So I encourage all who really want a very economical, cost-effective way to be able to learn more about real estate investment, not, find yourself neck deep in a $10,000 course. How can you go wrong with 30 for 30? So throwing that out there. All righty. So what we're going to do is talk about some of the elements now of how you get involved in real estate investment. And there's two ways to think about it. One is as an investor, the other is as a small business. And certainly for my smart cousin, what we do is offer services for both. So if you're looking at real estate investment, that's where the coaching comes in, and the coaching is offered by me. For folks who get impressed by degrees or feel like, hey, Pam, and that's nice you worked for big electric utilities, but do you have anything more to bring to the table? I graduated from Dartmouth College undergrad and then also Harvard University as far as master's. Again, I feel like the best way to tell if someone knows what they're doing is that old proof in the pudding in terms of, are they successful? Have they done this a whole lot of times and not just once, twice, 3 times? But real estate investment, coaching for folks that are interested in that, and then small business if you've got another kind of business outside of real estate that you want to get involved in. What we're going to do is start actually looking at some of the details. So this particular, let's just see here that I'm bringing up now. I'm going to try to just go here to make it a little bit bigger for everyone. Try to move down this ribbon. Okay. So what I've done just now is I've clicked on a very common website called Crexi, C-R-E-X-I. I don't work for Crexi. I don't get paid by Crexi. I have no skin in the game for Crexi. The reason I brought them up is because oftentimes when people think about rental property, they want to either right away or eventually be able to buy a multifamily. And often when they think multifamily, they don't say, hey, all I want is just a 2-family. They're thinking big time, as they should, in terms of an apartment building. So we're going to look at Crexi, which is a free website, and that's one of the things I like about them. And we're going to see what they have available right now. So what I'm doing is essentially just introducing you to this new site. Okay, so move over here, just a sec. All right. So one of the things that you see is the ability to check and see if something is for sale, for lease, comps, properties. We're going to go with for sale. Then you can see, well, what kind of property are we talking about? I like to look by unclicking the student housing, unclicking the single family, unclicking the RV park, and let's just go with apartment buildings, right? I said we want to look at apartment buildings, so that's where we'll start. Then you have the ability to put in a price. So I've just simply put in 100,000 as the minimum, 400,000 as the max, right? Just to see, can you actually get anything decent in this price range? Oftentimes people think you've got to be talking millions to buy commercial property. You do not have to be talking millions to get your hands on a commercial property. You see that the box called unpriced listings, exclude those unpriced listings. I checked that. Why? Because you don't want listings coming up that don't have a price, because of course nothing's free. So if it doesn't have a price, that's just a fishing expedition on the part of the person who is selling. You want people to actually tell you what things cost. So we have this in terms of filters. All righty, so you see here that we've got our multifamily. We've left it, and I'm just giving you a sense of some of the other filters that are out there that you can always use. So we'll head on back here. Just admit this person. Okay, so we'll head back. Come on, Crexi, cooperate. Just doing the refresh. And then we'll take a look at some of the properties that are available. So why don't we just look at this one, right? Here in Syracuse University, in the Syracuse area, Syracuse, New York. And so we've got ourselves a house that's been on the market for a very long time. So that's one of the first things. Sometimes that's excellent news, right? Because it's not a good fit for whoever's looking at it. Something I noticed as I'm clicking through these pictures is there's nothing on the inside. So generally, you want to be able to see a house that's or see a property that is showing pictures that's on the inside. So you get a real sense of whether this is something that's a good opportunity or not. Go down a little bit more just to see what else we can see that might be worthwhile here. Let's take a look at this one here in Springbrook Township, Pennsylvania. Why am I looking at this one? Because I see it's got 23 photos, right? So we're going to be able to dig in with some richness. It's 6 units for 350, and that's simply what they're asking. That doesn't mean that's what you're going to pay. So as we click around, I'm going to give you a sense of what I see when I look at a place like this. So I can see clearly that it's rural, but this might even be considered suburban rural. Okay, those are the outside steps. Everyone, it appears, has their own unit. Going upstairs here, this kind of the way that was set up. As you can see, when we walked up these stairs, this makes me think that this must be a bedroom or something, that's where that's located. But there's other things that I notice when I look at something like this. I see, first of all, somebody lives here, right? We like that. We like properties where somebody lives because that means it is livable. So you want that. Kitchen's looking good. This doesn't look like, at least this particular unit out of the 6, doesn't look like a lot of work. Fairly standard here. In fact, looks like no work in my eyes. Maybe a little bit of a freshening up of the paint. But this is the kind of thing that you like to see. Here's the next kitchen, and then the rest. This kind of a bit of a pitched roof. This is what you like. Not all roofs come this way, of course. Some of them are flat. And if it is, it just is. But you always like when it's not, because this means that snow and rain are less likely to be a problem in causing leaks. I think we noticed, okay, so we're back at the beginning with the driveway and so on. Yes, so we noticed that there's a good amount of space here for parking. So this is the kind of property, if you were looking in Pennsylvania, that's worth looking at, worth giving a harder look at, and probably the kind of property, given how long it's been out there, that could be negotiated down. I also like to mention with properties like this, especially for folks who are flexible in where it is that they can move to in these United States. That's been one of the few silver linings out of COVID, is that a lot of jobs are now remote. So if you've been kind of lamenting paying as much as you do in rent, and being the kind of person that doesn't mind having what looks like a bit of a country lifestyle, just imagine this could be your house, right? You move in, mortgages is obviously not for the price of a car, but you live in one unit and the other 5 are absolutely paying your rent and then some. So that's another reason to take a look at these larger multifamily properties. All right, so let's head back. Okay. And then that gives you a sense of Crexy. So who do we help as far as the kinds of investors that we work with? So you heard me talk about that I am of the buy, the fix it up, and the hold on to it variety. However, we also work with folks who are the buy, hold, flip, because I know there's a lot of folks out there like that. I even have helped family do exactly that on top of customers. And this continues to be a good way to get a good chunk of change as opposed to the buy, hold, rent. So that's one group of folks that we work with. Another group, you heard me allude to it just now when I was already venturing into, hey, here's a commercial property, but you could live in it. So aspiring homeowners, if you don't own your own home yet, and you want to, then My Smart Cousin is for you. And the My Smart Cousin name, by the way, came from family. So on my mom's side, we do a family reunion every year. We just had our 40th. And, as you can tell, I'm the kind of person that likes to sort of give my help to folks about how they can improve finances or just get started or explain things in plain English. So as a result, whenever I would come moseying over to somebody, they'd say, "Uh-oh, here come my smart cousin. What now, cuz?" So that's the history behind the name. But anyway, if you're an aspiring homeowner, we are for you. And certainly if you are an aspiring multifamily owner, we are for you. I also want to say regarding buying a house for the price of a car, you might be thinking, well, gee, that's only in areas that are very low income. And I have to say to you, you're right for the most part, not across the board. But obviously, Warren Buffett's neighborhood, Bill Gates's neighborhood does not have houses for the price of a car. These houses do tend to run in low-income areas, but not always. If you stay in the market, if you stay looking, you can find something. And I am an example. So me and my husband, I mentioned the house that he bought, so that is rented out. And we ended up buying another house, and that house was for the price of a car, $35,000, right in Philly, or just outside of Philly, in a suburb. And lastly, startup entrepreneurs. So that's another group of folks that we work with. So certainly if that is you, you are a woman and you want to get your certification so that you can get a government contract. I, by the way, have gotten that through the general contracting work that I do. If you're a minority and you're looking to do something similar, if you're a veteran and so on, there are very many flavors. So that's another group of folks that we work with. So I've kind of alluded to this, but now let's just talk brass tacks. What exactly is a house for the price of a car? So what's expensive in my book is a house. You see here, if everyone could go on mute.
Download the Experian app now. Hey, I'm here to say new FanDuel customers bet
I can
$50. And I'm training Gronk the $10 million.
Sorry, folks. Sorry. Okay. So what is expensive versus what is inexpensive? So a house for the price of a car is absolutely not this, right? And why is this number up here anyway? $428,700. Because that is what the average price of a house is in the US. So we're talking, of course, across all 50 states. So the big expensive ones like California, Alaska, Hawaii, drive it way up. And then, of course, you got your much lower price states, Pennsylvania for the most part, Michigan for the most part. But on average, $428,000. That is not a house for the price of a car. What is? One that can be had more or less for in the 60,000, 50,000, maybe 40. And these days with inflation might even have to be talking 65,000. But something that is in that neighborhood. So that's one. The second thing that characterizes a house for the price of a car is that it can be bought in this many. In other words, in 10 years or less, and not this many. In other words, a whole long, hard 30 years, a full generation. So that is part of what distinguishes a house for the price of a car as well, that it can be bought in 10 years, bought and paid for. And then the third aspect about a house for the price of a car is what it looks like. So generally, it's going to need some work. How much work? Well, enough such that we're talking probably some sheetrock here and there, some painting for sure, probably laying down some new vinyl floors. But what we're not talking about is having to get out the old wrecking ball and start fixing it up from there. So those are the big aspects about that being a house for the price of a car. So now I showed you already Crexy site to give you a sense of what commercial opportunities look like. Now let's actually dive into the single family opportunities and what those look like. So Century 21, I don't work for Century 21, just simply picking on sites. But actually, there is something particular I do want to mention about the websites that are not Zillow, not Trulia, not Redfin. So in other words, sites that tend to have a large band of real estate agents. And so they're very local, like a Century 21, maybe like a Long and Foster. That's another big real estate brokerage. They will sometimes have properties listed on their websites that you will not see on Zillow or Trulia. I don't know how that is, since I know the information with the multiple listing service is meant to be the same from one site to the other, but it is not. So there is value in checking if there's a particular area of the US that you're looking at, to not just look and see what's being sold on Zillow, but to use, as I said, a Century 21, a Long and Foster, or whoever is the big boy in your neighborhood. So with that said, here we are, we're looking at Century 21. I set it up as under 75,000, 2 beds, 1 bath, as kind of the filter. So let's see what we can see here. I guess the first thing to notice is, boy, are there a lot of houses that meet that criteria. So that's one. And now let's go down. So first one, you see this one for 18,000. I've already taken a peek at it. It's terrible. And actually, I'll let you see just how terrible. So we shall go. Outside looks okay. It's up a whole lot of stairs. You know, the exterior looks decent. Exterior doesn't look bad. It's even got a 2-car garage. Even in looking at this house, if I saw this kitchen, and let's say the kitchen, this is the only bad part about the house, I wouldn't be totally upset with this. Why? Because the things that are the matter with this kitchen aren't expensive things that are the matter, unless the electricity is a problem. I mean, I see the outlets here, so I'm going to assume that this house is wired. I see a faucet here, so I'm going to assume the house has plumbing. And so I think about right away the expensive things that it takes when fixing up a house. These things that you're looking at, they're not pleasant to look at, but they are not expensive. And in fact, you kind of like a little dirt and grime. Why? Because it's going to narrow the pool of competitors that you face. So this by itself is not bad. I'm guessing there would have been a fridge or a stove possibly here. You probably would have needed to have replaced that anyway. Again, back to flooring. The subfloor is here, so that means this is just a matter of laying on some more vinyl. If you don't like black cabinets, then get your white paint out and paint them, and get some cabinet pulls, get some blinds right here. And again, this is just a paint job. So this is a good kitchen for the most part. Okay, so here we are on the other side. Again, the stove, you'd need a new one. And this is a house I'm telling you I would not look at, but I do want to even show you for a bad house what some of the elements are that shouldn't scare you away. Again, the window's not so bad. This could be lead paint, but you know, you just can panel over it. That can be a way not to disturb it with it peeling. This door probably is in too rough a shape to keep. So you probably need to replace this door. And actually, I'll go back because something else I wanted to point out to you was this. So this is either baseboard or it's electric. So if it's baseboard, then it means that there's probably a boiler down in the basement. And if it's electric, then it means that the house has electric heating. I'll tell you that tenants don't love electric heating because it costs more. But then again, I do see what looks like a gas stove. So if that's the case, then this could be just a boiler in the basement that is gas fed. Okay, so here we are in, let's see here. So again, this bathroom, not so bad, not so bad. Why? We got a toilet, we got, you see evidence of things. Obviously this house, if it was lived in, it was a struggle. Let's put it that way, for someone to have lived here. Maybe this is a dining room area, but again, it's a floor, steps are there. The house hasn't had a fire, from what I can see. Looks like evidence of mold or mildew. Not sure if there's been some kind of heavy leaking that's going on here, but so far in Pam's book, none of this is too bad. Let's just keep going here. This isn't so bad. Okay, here's, I think, that same bathroom that we were looking at. And yeah, just a bit of a roughness. Maybe I didn't have this as a, let's see here. This is okay. I know you guys might be sort of doubting my choice of houses if I'm saying that this is not so bad and this is not so bad and all you see is catastrophe. But I'm trying to help you see how the catastrophe that you're seeing is really just garbage, is what you're seeing. A lot of trash and debris. If this house were clean swept, and everything else about it were left, you'd probably have a different impression about it. So remember that as well. But we're going to keep going in these pictures just to see if there is something truly awful. I'm wondering a little bit about this. So I'd want to understand the roof condition on this house, because a brand new roof is going to be a problem. Again, this is okay. You just replace these two pendant lights here. I see a tub. So I'm showing you the things that I see, how I look at something to determine if it should even be on the radar. So I'm kind of on the fence. The biggest reason that I initially said this house is a no is because every single room has a problem, has a lot of work. So this is the kind of house that could take months to fix. You would need a handyman crew of 3 or 4 to tackle it. If you just have a one guy out there doing it, it's going to take him 4 or 5 months to turn this around. So that's one of the things that I'm a bit cautious about. Here again, you see that baseboard radiator. But on the whole, the house, yeah, and here's our old boiler that I was talking about. And you can see this obviously is going to have to be replaced. And that's one of the things that you have to budget for, just routine. Do not assume that the furnace is going to be any good. Assume that you're going to have to replace it and be happy if you don't. But again, despite this old furnace, you see all kinds of piping. Okay, maybe this is going to have to be replaced, but at least it's here. Keep going. Okay, so we see some of the sewer piping down. Looks like, I don't know if this toilet actually works, but as I keep going on this, as you can tell, and then this wood here is probably propping up a cross beam. That's not necessarily a bad thing, as long as it really is being properly held up. There's the electric panel box, meaning it's not knob and tube. So this has been a good detailed walkthrough of a house that is certainly well priced at $18,000. Let's put it that way. So, you've got yourself an $18,000 house, and let's face it, to haggle it down to 15 or 14, what's the difference? It's still cheap. Obviously, with a house like this, it's going to be all about the cost to fix it up. And my guess, if you were to just use, if you didn't have to use a professional furnace company to put in a brand new furnace, and you knew someone who was able to help you, then you could probably get that boiler replace for, I don't know, probably three or 4,000. If you have to use your standard Sears or Home Depot or a contractor like that, it's going to be more like a $10,000 or $12,000 job. That's going to be your big piece. I didn't take a good strong look at the windows. I'm looking at them now here from the outside. Let's assume that they're in good shape. Maybe this roof might have some need, not for a brand new roof, but just for some repairs. Budget another 3,000 or 4,000 for that. So now that, that's taken us up to about 15,000. The hot water heater, I'm sure, is on its last legs. I didn't even see one in the basement. So that might be another couple of thousand. So now that's 17. And then just all the work to pretty it up, but that's not a huge amount of work. So maybe you can get away with about 40,000 on this house. And you paid, 18. So there you have it. A brand new house after you've done all of that work for the price of a car. So that's Century 21. So moving on here, back to big screen. What else? Where else are places that you can buy? Because that's always a question I get. Hey, Pam, it's nice that you can get a house for the price of a car, according to you, but where really and truly can you find these? Well, over the past 90 days or so, there have been some 500 houses in the city of Baltimore, just bringing up Baltimore as an example. Before that, with Century 21, we were over in Pennsylvania. But 500, and then if you look over the past 12 months, it's been a couple of thousand houses for the price of a car. These are not all good houses. They are not. You saw our very first house that we looked at in Pennsylvania that has some warts, but that looks a lot like the picture that I showed you before, the picture with the wrecking ball that said there's going to be some work. So I would say when you're getting a house for the price of a car, assume that you're going to have to pay 30 to 40 to fix it up. But that's 30 or 40, not 100,000, 150,000. If you got to pay that to fix it up, it is not a house for the price of a car. All right, so here we are in Baltimore. Again, we see quite a lot of red dots here. A couple of things I like to point out. So one, you see this here? It says auction. I don't look at these houses. I don't look at these houses on a site like this. On a site like this, meaning Zillow, why not? Because Zillow is not an auction site. I would go to auction.com or some other site if I'm actually looking for properties for auction. Also, 35,000 means that that's the floor price that's being set for this auction. So this property is not going to go for that. So you can just generally rule out. Here's another one that's showing $60,000 auction. All right, so let's see what we might have. This one here, 55,000. What does it offer? So it's a row house, and Baltimore is full of plenty with row houses. They also have single family, but probably at the house for a price of a car, you're going to be talking a row house. I'm loving what I'm seeing so far. I would think you all are doing a dance after seeing the $18,000 one, and you can see again the difference. Easy to throw stones at the $18,000 one, but remember, with another 40,000, it would look just like this. So here you're paying for someone else who has already fixed it up. And with that, you would then expect it to have this kind of finished look. Again, this is a house that appears to be occupied. You like that. You like houses that look like someone has lived in them recently, because that means they should not be full of problems. So as we go through this, maybe some paint, refresh here and there, but it looks very good. Okay, here we are in the basement. It's just a little crowded, but that's no big deal. You see the furnace, you see the ductwork going out of the furnace, heading on upstairs. Don't see a hot water heater just yet, but that's just the angle. This is an old furnace. It's probably a good 30 years old, but it may still have enough life in it for you to use for a couple of winters and not have to pay the $10,000 that I told you to budget for when you buy a house. Okay, bedroom, carpet's not wonderful. You could always pull that up and just put vinyl over it, over whatever the floor is. People tend to like ceramic in tile, ceramic as a backsplash in a bathroom. You tend to have fewer leaks that can come through. So that's a good thing. Again, a perfectly serviceable bathroom. Nice little closet here. I'm guessing this is bedroom 2. And yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this. So that gives you a sense, again, a house for the price of a car in Baltimore. I can tell you that a house like this, I think this was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, is probably going to rent maybe about $1,400 or so. So you can see, before we get into expenses or anything like that, as far as the operating costs of a house like this, 14 by 10 would be 14,000. So what is that? Closer to 16, 17,000. And this house was selling for 15 or 55 or so. So there you go, a 4-year break even, 25% return. I defy you to find something like that in most other asset classes. They just don't exist. Okay, so heading on back to our next slide to see what else we have. So we can see Baltimore is one place where you can buy a house for the price of a car. We've got, I remember our person out in Iowa. You've got Cedar Rapids over here, but here we are instead looking in the great city of Chicago and in Illinois. So we're going to try another site. On this go round, we're using Trulia. And I'm using all these different sites again, so you can see that there's something everywhere, right? You don't have to worry like, oh, do I use Zillow? Do I use Trulia? Which one? Just start and stay consistent. That is the answer. All right, so let's see what we've got here in Chi-Town in Chicago with this 2-bed. Okay, so this is not a good one to pick. Why? Only has one picture. And generally, I say when you're getting to know a city, what you'll want to do, let's say that Chicago was your target area because you see so much richness here in terms of prices, and you think to yourself, hey, maybe Chicago's about to turn around, or I don't know, do something massive. You'll want to pick out a good 5 or 6 houses on these sites and then take a trip. You won't want to just kind of go cold and get with a real estate agent and say, show me stuff. You want to direct the real estate agent and have them take you to the kinds of houses that fit your criteria. And that way that agent can really be effective for you. All right, here you see that I set my limit on the much lower side, 30 to 50. I think before I had it at, for the other one at 75 or something like that or less. So here, what do we see a lot of? Some single families. This one here looks like it has a few more pictures. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so again, this is a 2-bed, 1-bath. Generally, I advise folks to buy a 3-bedroom because it works a lot better for families. But these days, it's just a housing shortage, no matter how you slice it. So a 2-bedroom is going to be perfectly fine. And again, back to me saying, for folks out there who don't have a house, who are like, hey, Pam, this is great about property investment, but I just need myself my first house to live in. Well, have you thought about the city of Riverdale, Illinois? I don't know much about, in fact, I know nothing about Riverdale, Illinois. This is the kind of thing we would have to research. But on the face of it, I'm saying $30,000, right? If they've taken, if these people, meaning the seller, is negotiating against themselves, taking the price from 35 down to 32, they'll probably take it down to 30. $30,000 for a house means not only can you pay it off in this many years, you can pay it off in this many years, in just 5. So let's take a look at what this house has to offer. Well, it's a single family house. It's looks, I mean, obviously looks can be deceiving, but it looks to be next to other houses that look decent, good, just fine on the outside. Let's see here what we have. Again, back to Pam's livability test. Someone was living here. So meaning it is livable. Again, paint, right? That's all we're talking about is paint. We see these, well, we can't really see what the window looks like behind this vertical blind, but I'm guessing that it's in decent shape. I'm guessing it's a vinyl window, can't really tell. Those are your newer windows. What else do we have? Got our nice old-fashioned clawfoot tub here that would be probably 2,000 pounds or 1,000 pounds, the kind of thing that you would just leave right there. What I have done with bathrooms like these, you may worry about tenants causing a leak back here, like in this space here and this nook and cranny here. This is just a matter of drywall. You can throw up kind of an artificial wall type thing and just corner this in. But at any rate, this is perfectly fine. This works well, right? It's a tub for families with children, and you're able to, as I said, create a wall such that there'd be a shower curtain to hang over. I think that's a mirror, but if it's a hole, it's nothing but a patch of drywall that's needed to fix it up. Again, you know, just clutter. That's all we see. We like clutter. If they showed the house to us like this, we would do a jig because a lot of people are going to look past it. So what about this artificial brickwork here? It's just a matter of painting over, or probably just getting some thin panel. I don't work for Home Depot. I don't get a promotion fee for Home Depot, but as an example, at Home Depot, they sell thinned sheets of paneling. So the paneling looks like both the 1970s wood version, but they also have it in white, where it looks more like what you would see on HGTV, and gives an impression of something very finished. So that's what I would do with something like this. I would just cut out a bunch of panel strips, and that would be my new backsplash. But this is a great cabinet set. It looks really good, looks new. Or newish, and that's the house. So they really didn't show us much. We had to walk upstairs, so I would have to presume that there's a basement or a crawl space. They didn't show us the furnace. They didn't show us the hot water heater. Again, we assume that has to be replaced. But this is a nice little house. And if the furnace is okay and the hot water heater are okay, and you're just needing to put in appliances. This is a house that is $10,000 or less in fix up. So now we're talking $40,000. And a 2-bedroom like this in Chicago should not rent for less than $1,000, because that's just what things look like now. And that's cheap, $1,000. And that gives you a break even of 3.5 years. Again, you can't beat it. All righty. So now heading back to see what is our next city where you can buy a house for the price of a car. Okay, I must have it on my next slide. So here, the point of this is that in most of the US, you can buy a house for the price of a car for this 60,000 or less. Now, of course, with most, I mean, probably 35 states out of the 50. There are some where it's just not possible. So I've got here Alaska, Arizona, California, the District of Columbia, Hawaii. They don't sell them. These are our expensive places to live. But in an awful lot of the Northeast, for sure, Florida, and then, you know, this is not quite Northeast here, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, but yes, you are going to find house for the price of a car. South Carolina is not as easy to find. It's going to be only a handful. North Carolina, yes, some. Maryland, yes. Pennsylvania, absolutely. Jersey, yes. New York, yes. Up here in the Vermont and the Maine and the New Hampshire area, a little harder. You probably only want a small handful among those 3 states. So a lot of the Northeast, yes. This whole swath of the Midwest, yes, for sure. Up here in the Dakotas, a little harder. It's going to be harder, not as much. Texas, not as much. And then as we get over towards the West Coast with California, state of Washington, Oregon, a little, not too much. New Mexico, not too much. I'm not going to take you through all 50 states, but you can just kind of get a sense as I'm going through this of where the veins are quite deep. Louisiana down here for sure. Where things are quite deep and where they're not. Also, 2 to 3 family houses, and in some limited cases, commercial for the price of a car. Yes, possible. Again, probably more so in like a Louisiana where I just had the cursor, more so there. Also Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a funny state. You've got your expensive areas like Philly, and then as you go west, a whole lot cheaper. Even New York. You heard me say New York, and you might have thought, Pam, you spoke wrong. No, New York City, of course you can't get a house for the price of a car in New York City. But in the state of New York, absolutely. Yes, plenty. So in a state like that, you might be able to find, let's say, a business, not a laundromat, but some other small business, I don't know, an office for, I don't know, a business that you might have or might want to start, or that you rent to a lawyer or an accountant or something like that. And then on the second floor is the apartment. So yes, as far as being able in limited cases to find commercial. And why should you do it? Why should you buy a house for the price of a car? One is the ability to build wealth. So it's difficult, maybe impossible, to get started in real estate and do it through $100,000 or a couple of $100,000 houses, one after the next, after the next, after the next. I know for some folks, the thinking is, well, yes, you can. All you got to do is flip your way to success. Flipping can work, but flipping, you just have to be ready for the roller coaster ride because things don't always sell. Prices come down. Witness the crazy COVID that made prices go to the moon, and now here they come back down to earth with inflation. So house for the price of a car, it's hard to go wrong. Remember that $18,000 house we saw in, can't remember which state, Pennsylvania it might have been. What are you going to do? Cry into your cup of your glass of wine if the price of that house goes down from 18,000 to 15,000? You're not going to care. Your value in that $18,000 house is going to be its rentability. And a second thing is going to be its ability to climb up and become a little lottery ticket for you should that neighborhood turn around or suddenly become a big economic mecca for one reason or another. And so I think about Brooklyn, New York, and I'm sure there's many other places, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, place after place, Detroit, Michigan, even to some degree, where houses were dirt cheap. In other words, price of a car. And then in 10 years, they're hundreds of thousands. And in the case of Brooklyn, New York, $1 million homes. And they don't look like much. So that is the reason, is that it can be a way to really build wealth. Second is it can be a way to generate cash. So just because the house is cheap doesn't mean the rent is going to be $5. It will not. The rent will be what the rent is in that zip code. And so you'll just go on Google as an example. I don't represent Google. I don't work for Google. You'll go on Google or whatever your favorite search engine is. You'll type in, I'll make it up, Peoria, Illinois, house for rent. And then you're going to look and see how much you can rent a house out for. That's 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. And that's going to show you that the market is that the market for a cheap house, if you paid a little for it versus if you paid a lot for it, it's the same when it comes to the rentability, as long as that house is in the same, those two houses are in the same zip code. So anyway, that's why to do it. Wealth, cash flow. An example. Imagine you have a house that you bought for 40 and the fix up on it is 20. So this might be like the house that we saw just a little bit ago. That was even cheaper than 40. It was only 30. And we think the fix up on it is more like 10, but let's pretend it's 20. So here we are, we've got a house, fix up. After we fixed it up, it's really a $60,000 house. What's the conservative annual picture? Maintenance, maybe $1,000 for the year. Why? Because you would have paid if the house is 40, meaning it's in pretty decent shape, and you have fixed it up at 20, there's not much for to go wrong. So you've got your maintenance at maybe $1,000 for the year. If you didn't buy it cash, well, now you've got your mortgage, your insurance, your property taxes. That's going to cost you maybe a good $6,000 for the year. Rent. This rent is on the low side. I'm sure it could be a bit higher than that, but being conservative, $1,300. So that's taking us to $15,600 for the year and giving us an annual net of $8,600 or a 14% return on our investment. So it's a great investment, and again, a great way towards building wealth. Why else should you do it? Because you can get multiple streams of income. And this is the case really with just real estate in general. So this is me making my pitch for why real estate is something that you should not just be thinking about, although it starts with thinking, but doing. Don't just think about it, be about it. And this is where my smart cousin comes in. And again, for those who came in a little late, we are running a special where just as you're getting a chance to hear this, and this is just more me talking to a screen, imagine instead it's me talking to you, me working with you, giving you 30 minutes one-on-one. We go through whatever is the investment or the property that you're looking to buy for your home sweet home. And it's $30 for 30 minutes as a promotion that we're running. So I will make sure that we have that in the chat as well, so that you can go ahead and sign up for it. But multiple streams of income is something that properties deliver you. Multiple in terms of short-term rental. So Airbnb, what's so cool about Airbnb or any of its other competitors is that you don't have to rent out your whole house. You can rent out just a room. You can rent out your backyard. If you've got a nice backyard, you can rent out your garage if you want to just allow other people's crap to sit in there because you don't have much to put in there. So that's one reason. Second is specific segments of folks that you can think about renting to beyond just, John Q. Public. So if you live or if you buy a house that is located near a large hospital, traveling nurses are a big business. They pay a whole lot more than John Q. Public does, and they stay for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. They'll sign that sort of a lease. And again, you don't have to rent the whole house. If you decide to buy a house to live in and you've got a nice finished basement, well, that can be where a person lives. Second, even though COVID is more or less behind us, knock on wood, there is still rent relief that is out there in certain states. So I mentioned that I own 25 houses, and they are in Delaware, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. And Delaware still has rent relief. And actually, come to think of it, so does New Jersey. So this is something that is of help if you are a landlord. And it's also, for those of you who are renting, look and see if rent relief is available. Check with your landlord, or just go on probably whatever your state housing authority is. So let's pretend it's the state of Delaware. It would be called Delaware State Housing Authority. Just type in some such words like that with your state, and then you will eventually see whether there's rent relief listed on their website. Flipping is obviously another potential stream of income. So after you've collected your money for a while on the rental side, you can then cash in on the appreciated value and flip it. And of course, appreciation is something that's especially possible when you're talking about a house for the price of a car. How likely is it that a house is going to continue to stay in the $20,000 neighborhood? And then I just mentioned storage rental. And so we've gone through a lot of this in terms of where to find. So Zillow, I didn't go on Realtor and Redfin, but you can imagine it would have been just the same in terms of MLS listings and finding them there, and Trulia, which we went on. Single family, multi, townhouse, commercial, farmland. Generally speaking, when talking about real estate investment, what you don't want to buy is a manufactured home as a rental property. And the reason why is because the lot rent is very high. Second is oftentimes manufactured homes will be treated by the owner of that entire property the same way that, let's say, a subdivision or a large condominium building might treat their property. In other words, they may not allow you to rent it out or sublet it out in their mind. So that's one reason to kind of steer, just be wary, do your diligence if you're thinking about buying a manufactured home and then renting it out. Okay, and then other places where you can find these properties are REO listings. REO stands for real estate owned. So real estate owned listings like who? Good old federal government. So one great thing about the federal government, if you are buying a house and you are going to live in it, is that there is FHA, Federal Home Administration. There's money from FHA to make your mortgage cheaper. And that is how it is that most first-time homeowners qualify for a mortgage with an FHA-backed mortgage. Well, as we know, just because you get the mortgage doesn't mean you're always able to make payments on the mortgage. Sometimes there is a situation where someone goes into foreclosure. And when the federal government is the one that has backed that house, the federal government ends up being the one to own it, which they don't love. No different than how a bank does not want to own a house. They want to rent their money in terms of giving you a mortgage, but they don't want to own the property. When they find that they do, they sell them. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, HUD, the Veterans Administration, even the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the U.S. Department of Agriculture. These all are mortgagers, I suppose. And so checking their websites is a great place to find houses for the price of a car or higher. On the local government side, meaning city, county, state, land banks, there's some 250 land banks across the U.S., municipal and county sales. I've bought houses through sheriff sales, through judicial sales, through land bank sales. There's, and as well as right here, I've bought plenty right this way through MLS listings and through private auctions. So lots of places. How are you going to finance it? So I was just talking about Fannie Mae, HUD, USDA, these government agencies. Is one way to finance home buyer programs. And this is the kind of thing, again, with the $30 for 30-minute program, where I would then dive into for you specifically what kind of program makes sense and is available. Suffice it to say, more than we can talk about in this 1 hour or so call, but many home buyer programs, tenant rental assistance for anyone who is receiving Section 8 assistance or knows someone who is. Section 8, depending on your jurisdiction, they offer assistance to help you buy a house and not just be a perpetual renter. And then other homeowner assistance. On the private sector side, hard money lenders and land bank partners. So how do we get started? Develop a detailed strategy, timetable, financing plan, and then implement. And so that strategy, meaning let me narrow down exactly where I want to be and what my property requirements are and what is my intention in my financing. That's where we're really able at My Smart Cousin to help you define that. Certainly the timetable. That means, are you looking to do this, I don't know, in the next month, in the next 6 months, in 2023 at all? And then your financing plan. And again, this is really where we shine in terms of helping you ferret out where the money is available so that you can buy your house for the price of a car. So if you are ready to move from vision board to action, again, not just thinking about it, but being about it, and ready to, kind of move beyond nervously considering. There's plenty of reason to be nervous when you don't have a hand to hold. But if you're ready to confidently execute, then let's get started. Again, with our $30 for 30 minute, obviously we offer one-on-one coaching that's much more comprehensive than that, but we find the 30 for 30 is a great way to help folks solve a specific problem and feel like they can get some value. So with that, I'm going to take us back so that if anyone has any thing that they'd like to go ahead and bring up with the chat, that they can feel free to do so. Got a lot of folks here, and I'm going to go ahead and just take a peek-see. Yep, we have put our chat, our $30 for 30 minute link there. And I know this is usually a time when people are a bit on the shy side. So please, if someone's got a question, this is free information, folks, and from somebody who has, all I do is this, this is what I do. So does anybody have a question that they want to throw out there? All right, so if not, if you guys would be able to maybe give me some feedback. If you got a thumbs up emoji, I get really excited when I see those, or a smiley face or something like that. And I would love it as well if you can pass this along to friends and family and colleagues. Oh, Lindsay, thank you. Made me confident that even I can do real estate. You better believe you can. Shoot, I did it. And I'm not a real estate agent. I didn't come raised up in the real estate world. It's just entirely doable. And, my deep held belief and passion. Thanks so much for the hand clap, Shane. My deep held passion is that everybody should own their own house if they want to. It's just as American as mom and apple pie. So in just my own small way, I'm determined to help folks do exactly that. All righty. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Robbie, for the thumbs up. And I hope you'll have a wonderful new year and get cracking, and make your real estate investment dreams come true. Bye.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you, Ravi.